All right, guys, thanks for joining me for this webinar. Low testosterone, the numbers of men on low testosterone over the last decade has increased exponentially. And I think it's absolutely essential that we get the truth out so that you have a clear understanding of what's going on. And while in the short term, hormone replacement therapy might get you over the hump, in the end, what is going on in our own bodies and in our own society is an absolute crime. And it's absolutely essential that we learn to debunk some of the things. You were just not born in this way that you couldn't produce enough testosterone. Yes, everyone says after 35 it goes down. But as I'll point out here pretty shortly, it's not how much you have, but how much you use. If you didn't know me already, my name is Victor Robledo. I've been a strength and conditioning coach and fitness coach for the last 30 years. For 20 of those years, I had my own brick and mortar and work with people and children every day. I've helped hundreds of men solve their low testosterone issues and solve it fast. And so I have actually practical application to solving this problem ASAP. In most cases, 2 weeks, I'm turning the boat around and changing things. Now, about 8 years ago, we sold everything we had and moved into a RV to travel full time with my family. And I encountered and have encountered throughout my life a couple times where I have personally felt my testosterone, symptoms of low testosterone. And so I know exactly what it feels like. And so my greatest empathy is with you. If you're encountering this, I know exactly what it feels like, but also I know how to help you. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing I want to make sure, this is a picture of me and my family at the end of or at a summit. And one of the big reasons I think that you need to make sure you're motivated to really take on this challenge, because while it's very simple to do, it is not easy. And a lot of people slip up along the way and don't have the ability to really help themselves or enough motivation to really stay the course. And so I encourage you to, even while you're listening to this and you want to potentially sort of trail off and do multitask, actually listen to the quality of the content here so that you can apply it for yourself and change the trajectory of your life. So for me, when I was in my mid 30s, had a massive adrenal fatigue, tested for low T. It was my family that really got me to really push myself, because for myself, I just wanted to wallow in self-pity. And if you're sitting in that, you need to find a bigger picture, a bigger vision for your life. Okay. So if you are encountering some symptoms of low testosterone, they're on the board here, and they can be wide and varied and significant. For me, my anxiety was massively high, and it becomes a double-edged sword as I get into more of the science. And I promise this is not going to be too heavy science. I'm going to keep it as basic as possible so that you understand it. I have some more videos that go into more detail on your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and your liver, and how your emotions are impacting your liver, which then impacts your testosterone. But that's not what this is about. What I'm trying to do is connect some dots, because you're being lied to. You're being lied to by a system. The system is letting us down. We are seeing levels of disease in this country, in the United States, that are unprecedented, and our health is only getting worse, even though our medicine is technically getting more advanced. So these are the symptoms associated with it. Being unmotivated is one of the biggest ones. The dysbiosis, leaky gut, and overweight, it's a very interesting chicken and egg argument that I'll get into a little bit later, because as your T goes down and your stress goes up, you're more likely to develop leaky gut, bad bacterial overgrowth in your GI tract, which leads to more and more issues with your testosterone. And as your testosterone goes lower and lower, your mood changes. You become a grumpy bastard, guys. And if this is all resonating, you're in the right place. I promise to give you some information that'll help you. Poor stress tolerance. I remember just like wanting to be closing myself off in a room. I couldn't heal my aches and pains. Now, one of the good things, and actually one of the bad things, is I think diagnosing myself took longer because of my physical therapy type background. I've always been able to heal people's injuries, and myself included. So I just kept doing physical therapy on myself to try to help my situation, only to be treating just about every major joint at some point. Like, hey, I need some help. Anxiety was high, I couldn't sleep well, and I couldn't heal from any injuries, inflammation and injuries. I have those two separate because it's important to understand that other parts of your body, your insides, couldn't heal. All right. So one of the biggest things that I want to start off with, and this is sort of that red pill moment, is that when we're dealing with the physical body, you have been taught by the medical industrial complex that that if you have a physical issue associated with low testosterone, you just have, it's genetic. This is how it is. We're just going to treat the body. But if you look at this very simple diagram, you can kind of see that it becomes much more simple and yet impactful. And so the body reacts to the food you're putting in, to the toxins, and to the thoughts. Now, thoughts and toxins can be represented in much the same way, because if you have toxic thoughts, toxic relationships, they're going to negatively impact your testosterone. Now, this is what they don't want you to know. And when I went in and tested for low testosterone and high anxiety, they never once asked me what my emotional state was, what my everyday life was, or even said, hey, by the way, we want you to take Xanax and an antidepressant. I'm like, wait, I'm not either of those things. They never scratched the surface to figure out what else was going on beneath the surface. Now, toxins, we live in an environment at a time where toxins are at an all-time high. Everything from EMF, processed foods, and pollutions in general. So it's difficult to source really good food, as well as the environment really adding load to the body that it cannot overcome. Now, as I slip into this slide, it's important too that you understand, and the easiest way for people that I start to connect this dot, I'm a massive fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you have any opportunity after this and you're now still not quite convinced at where I've come with any of this, I highly recommend you go check out Becoming Supernatural or You Are the Placebo. So it gives you an idea of some of the things that really science is finally starting to uncover. And that is that the appropriate mindset or stress, one and the same really, if you are consistently in a fight or flight response, that stress reaction on your body will impact your ability, it'll downregulate your genes. When stress goes up, genes responsible for immune function go down. Conversely, you can see that during periods of elevated emotion, 10 minutes, your genes responsible for immune function go up. Now, what does this mean? Well, basically, it means that you can make yourself sick. And by that same token, you can make yourself well. Now, when it comes to low T, the more you are making yourself sick, if you're stressed out in any way, shape, or form, and this goes into also trauma response and programming, it's going to start having a very significant impact on your testosterone. So if you're staying in fight or flight in any way, shape, or form, and how do you know if you're in fight or flight? Well, we'll go into that a little bit more, but it's quite easy. One of the easiest ways is like, are you in a relaxed state? Are you breathing in a relaxed state? Do you feel rested? If you're constantly feeling wired and tired, there's a good chance that you're living in the hormones of stress. And if you are living in the hormones of stress, you are going to drop your testosterone. Okay, so as we get into the root causes of low T, why are we seeing so many issues with low T? Now, over the last actually 40 to 50 years, we've kind of seen a gradual decrease in testosterone. And as we become more and more um, prone to staying busy. Now, while being busy and the stress we face is normal, it is not normal for our body. So one of the big reasons why testosterone is low is because big pharma can make money by selling it to you. Now, I am not here to tell you not to take it. If you are currently on hormone replacement therapy, awesome. You made a decision, an empowered decision to take action and correct. But I will tell you this, that it's a slippery slope to like getting off of this stuff is no picnic. And you have to understand what else is going on in your body so you have a chance. So big pharma makes money. We know they make money by selling you stuff. So they, by default, they want you to know that they are the solution for it. Instead of saying, hey, by the way, we could put you on this hormone replacement, but if you did this, this, and this, you might not need it. They don't do that because they just want to make money. So that's one of the big reasons. Show me the money. Number two is poor food, and I alluded to that a little bit before. The level of estrogenic food, the level of glyphosate or Roundup in our food is absolutely hormone disruptors. Now, there are two things. There's glyphosate, which is a hormone disruptor, puts massive holes in your GI tract. When the holes in the GI tract increase, your cortisol level responds because the food starts to travel into your bloodstream. The body's autoimmune response is to mobilize and attack that foreign body. And that creates a huge dump in cortisol, which inverts your testosterone. Now, on the other side of the coin, if you are eating industrialized meat, which most people tend to do, you are getting extra estrogens, right? So you are now putting something that's going to counteract your own body. And so it's very important to start figuring out that, hey, these things in your home, while no one has told you are a big deal, they are a big deal. By itself might not be the only thing, but cumulatively. Now, moving into number three, what is normal stress? Well, there's a lot that goes into that. And a lot of it is very simply in our modern society, we're not designed for what's going on. The amount of inputs that we have, and the amygdala hijack, the idea that you are in a constant fight or flight, the same thing that we see with soldiers coming from post-traumatic stress, coming back from war. We're seeing that in everyday life because we're being bombarded by news and social media, and it's all negative, it's all negative. And so it is by far not normal, even though it is the norm. And that has a massive negative impact on your brain function and how you're wired. Instead of being wired to enjoy your life, be in rest and restore, and then occasional bouts of like, okay, let's be ready for something. Most people are in the opposite. They're always in that fight or flight response. And that leads to high levels of cortisol, which leads to holes in the GI tract, which leads to more cortisol, which leads to low T. Now, it is in the culture, especially in the United States, to stay busy, 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 busy. And when I ask people, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Oh, just so busy. And while it is important to chase our dreams, a busy for the sake of being just like everyone else is not good and can destroy your testosterone. And pollution of all types, number five. So we all live it. If you're living in a home, I'm currently in a home. We have been for the last month enjoying it. And we can all feel the difference of being the EMF and just being inside a home with Wi-Fi and electric currents running all over you. And that's just one, but pollution in the air, pollution in your water can all have a massive negative impact and put a load on the body that will have a negative impact on your testosterone. So I spoke a little bit in the last slide on how anxiety impacts the body. Cortisol has a massive long-term impact on the body, right? And the challenge with a with that is that most people don't realize it, and your doctor's not going to tell you that there is a massive long-term impact on the body. These are the impacts that I most often see when I start to evaluate people. The gut microbiome. So as you start to get stressed out, or you have increasing levels of anxiety coupled with poor eating habits, you're going to get this dysbiosis. Your microbiome is going to get all out of whack. We have a ton of healthy, powerful bacteria that should reside in our GI tract. And a fair amount of our neurotransmitters, feel-good neurotransmitters, are generated there. And so if your microbiome is all upset and you have this nasty, bad bacteria growing, it's going to have a direct impact on your thought process. Now, the other thing that happens with high cortisol is that it opens up gaps in our GI tract. It flattens out. So like the fingers on my hand, the microvilli is what's responsible for really helping digest and move the food through our system. Our GI tract gets flattens out just like your garden hose, and then starts to get holes. When it becomes leaky and starts leaking food particles, poop into your bloodstream, we have a major problem. Cortisol dump goes way up. Now, with that, anytime you have leaky gut, you are going to have leaky brain. Now, a lot of people that are struggling with low testosterone are also suffering with brain fog. And it could be linked with the cortisol relationship there. So some of the easy ways that you can do that is to start impacting your stress and how you're interpreting it. And ultimately, the number 3 is the big one. How our body adapts to stress and how our body can stay healthy is often linked to this cortisol, this HPA axis, this hypothalamic, right? The hypothalamus is the part of the brain where we feel emotion. Pituitary and adrenal axis. Now, the pituitary is a master gland that helps us to create your GH spike, which generates your testosterone, right? And the adrenals are putting out this stress hormone. Now, with some of the challenges that we see is if your anxiety starts to climb, chicken or the egg, it does not matter where you are right now, you are going to have increasing risk of dis-ease in the entirety of the body. And that's why it's absolutely essential that you nip this in the bud and take action, be empowered to take care of your health, okay? All right, so let's get into some simple solutions if you are struggling with low testosterone. And one of the easiest ways, you're going to start to think to yourself, wait a second, we're talking about repairing my gut to help my testosterone. Yeah, that's what we've been alluding to. The first thing is to start identify allergens. The biggest ones in the diet that I've seen are dairy and gluten. And so shifting into an anti-inflammation diet. And if you don't know what the anti-inflammation diet, that's a Google search away. So all of this information is widely available. When I work with a client, the idea is that I am helping them along to help them problem solve any of the issues that they are encountering. But this is exactly the information that I share with them. The difference is I hold them accountable. I'm not preparing their food, but I make sure come Sunday, did you meal prep so you're not prone to reach for poorly sourced foods? And so second start here on this is sourcing it. Get high quality meats, organic farm raised, pasture, and organic vegetables of all kinds. When I put anyone on a nutrition plan, it is not a restrictive. And let me say that again. When I put anyone on a nutrition plan, I never. There was a time when I said, okay, let's only eat, 1,500 calories. And I used to think that my clients were just lying to me when they'd bring me their diet logs. But the reality is that they hadn't dealt with the stress factors in their life, and they hadn't dealt with their sourcing. And so sourcing your food, when you're hungry, eat. Now, if you're responding to symptoms of low blood sugar, that's a sign that something else potentially deeper is going on your stress reaction. And so we have to deal with that as well too. More on that on another webinar. Now, the last part is plugging the holes that you potentially have created in the body. And a lot of that is just a use of glutamine and bone broth as a cornerstone for healing the gut. When I was at my worst, I was literally eating fish, boiled fish and veggies, and drinking bone broth. And the powerful thing about it is I was very, very hungry, but my energy had climbed up and my brain fog went away. So these are some essentials to help you start impacting your testosterone from another angle, the gut element, right? All right. Now, most of my men that are struggling with testosterone have blood sugar management problems. And I already alluded to that cortisol link. That cortisol and that extra cortisol dump that's associated with anxiety and stress um, is going to impact how you uptake your sugar. If you think about it from a fight or flight response, it's absolutely essential if we are running from a predator that our body knows how to mobilize sugar. Well, in the short term, that can be an amazing adaptation. In the long term, if you're using it, it's absolutely horrible because you're constantly wanting to store and you're constantly feeling hangry. And so some go-tos is manage your blood sugar, eat more often. And this is the tough part because when my guys start to encounter low T, their energy is so low, they stop taking care of themselves. But with a couple things here, guys, like, just always be around good stuff. Keep it with you. Go shopping, get some nuts, avocados, and paleo and keto snacks of all different types. Have them always around so that so that you can manage your blood sugar. I have a tendency to reach through protein and fat. Personally, I do better on a diet that's a little higher in protein and moderate in fat. Figure out what works for you. Eat many small meals. You really should be eating 3 to 4 small meals a day, plus the snacks to just kind of manage the blood sugar. And then obviously the last element of blood sugar, which I'll get into a little bit more, is the mindset impact, right? So as we start to get low testosterone and stress is high, it becomes very, very difficult. You just are so worried, like something's wrong with me, something's wrong with you. I'm here to tell you nothing is wrong with you, but your brain is partially being hijacked and keeping you in a stress reaction. And the anxiety that you're encountering is a message from your body that you're slightly out of alignment, you're out of whack. And so helping your mindset and calming your body down through meditation, breath work, and getting in nature. Again, super, super easy or super, super simple, but not really easy to implement for the vast majority of people. I have some clients that I've worked with for quite some time that still struggle to get their meditation and breath work, even though every time I do it, they're like, oh my gosh, this helps me so much. So prioritize it. I hope you're taking notes here, guys. And remember, all of this, you can email me and specifically. So when we get to breath work, there are so many different breath works. I pride myself on creating individualized breath work and guided meditation for my clients these days because it provides us the opportunity to really start to understand their programming issues and their trauma. And how is that related to your low testosterone? Well, if you're wired to constantly be worried because you were worried because of blank, blank, and blank, then you're going to be leaching and destroying the testosterone that you do have. And so really just starting off with the breath work, I tell everyone, just start with the breath work and lead the way of the body. Let's just start leading the way through breath. If you spend 10 minutes a day and doing either box breath, you can find all these types of breaths, belly breathing, personally, just basic belly breathing for someone that is in a fight or flight response can almost be anxiety producing. So just be patient with yourself. Bring your focus purely to what's happening, which is the breath, right? Just focus right there, connect with the body. And this is the mind body aspect that was in that previous slide. Having an understanding that your testosterone could improve just by chilling the frig out, guys, learning to chill out. We live in such a high stress society. And if you have a family and you have a job and you don't know how to shut it down, it will destroy your testosterone. So that's breath work. Now, play theory is something that's certainly evolving, but that most people realize. I encourage most of my men and women to find something that they can lose themselves in. And these days, I don't call an exercise routine, I call it a movement routine, actually, because for everyone, the type of movement that you're doing is going to resonate completely different. Now, if you can find, is a picture of us right before we paddled out in, gosh, where was it? Northern California. You could see us in a 4-3 gloves and everything. Losing yourself in a sport literally changes your brain waves. So if you find yourself that you are in beta, which is that stress reaction, which is that anxiousness, you can change your brain waves by finding something that you can lose yourself in. So going out, whether it's kicking a soccer ball, shooting some hoops, you don't have to participate in the competitive sport. If that's something that resonates, obviously you can, but it gives you a better connection to yourself, and you rediscover that inner child within you. Personally, I used to kick a soccer ball growing up for hours and hours and hours and hours, and I could lose myself in that. And so play theory, The Rise of Superman is the name of the book, that had discovered that the people that spend the most amount of time in flow state tend to be the happiest people. And so there's another wonderful element that can raise your testosterone. Now, some strength training essentials, like, look, this is very, very simple stuff. However, most of my guys and gals, for that matter, struggle to integrate a strength training program that's both aligned. It's a smart, that they have goals that are smart. And a big part of that is because they always have a recollection of what they used to be able to do. If I used to do bro splits and go to the gym 2 hours a day and sit in the sauna, and okay, cool. I'm happy you did that, but we are not in that phase in your life. And so you have to understand your strength training with intention. If you use a previous slide, like, hey, I really love to surf, for example, or I really love to do jiu-jitsu. So my strength training can be aligned to help me with that. And it gives me some focus. So when I lift, like, okay, have I achieved the strength that I needed to do blank? And so MED, minimum effective dose, is something I like to use with most of my guys. Now, I grew up in the gym, and so I still actually have quite a bit of enjoyment to spend some time there. But I well know that the vast majority of people don't really like to go to the gym. They like the results from the gym, but they don't like to necessarily be there or train for extended periods of time. But if you understand minimum effective dose, which is the idea to get in and create the right anabolic reaction. Now, this is a big one, because if you lift right, you get a GH spike from your pituitary gland, and that GH spike is going to then produce more testosterone. But if you overtrain, which I have done, it'll put your testosterone in the tank. And how do you know that? Well, it's kind of by the list here. If you just go in, focus on getting a nice warm up, just some basics, right? Whatever that is for you, whether it's a few minutes on a treadmill, 5-10 minutes on a treadmill, a bike, stretching, some light movement. Personally, I like to do the light movements that are associated with my strength training. And then you focus a little bit on injury sites. Now, as my background, I've always been the guy that people saw when I had my brick and mortar when they couldn't be fixed. So I tend to warm my clients up with a small circuit that integrates where they're most prone to injury. So if they tend to have knee injuries, then I'm doing their knee rehab, and we're stretching and mobilizing, heating up. Now, once you get past the warm up, which now we're looking at 10, 15 minutes of warm up, then you flip the switch, and that can be done with 2 or 3 movements of the major movements: push, pull, squat, hinge, drag, lunge, carry are the big ones. Hit a few of those movements, 2 to 3 of those, flip the switch so that you feel charged when you leave. If you are dragging butt, you overtrained. If you are dragging butt when you leave, you overtrained. You will likely put your testosterone, if you already have it, in the tank. So always feel like, okay, I left the gym, and about an hour later, you're like, man, I could go work out again. You probably did the right amount. Okay. So those are essentials there. So, as we get to the end of this hopefully informative webinar, I think it's important that you understand that we are dealing with a lot of different things. But if you focus on what we just talked about, which is the mind-body approach, what you're putting in, what's coming out, and then dealing with it. And I'll touch on one more thing here. And I don't have a slide for this one because I just wanted to speak from the heart. All of us, not a one of us, is without our own issues. And it's super important to have an understanding of where we're coming from. I know personally, I had some sexual abuse as a kid that really laid the foundation for me to be always hypervigilant for obvious reasons. Now, the problem is we still carry that program. That stress reaction and how we adapt to stress is usually formed between, I don't know, 5 and 12. I've seen some research that says 5 to 15. So it's really important that you have an understanding of where you came from, what happened. Now, yes, it happened in the past, but it could have laid a program that's running right now. And what I find when I work with individuals these days, it's not me watching them do push-ups. It's me getting to that root problem and helping them reprogram and go, okay, that happened. This is probably what's happening in your everyday life. Let's teach the body to act in this way and respond in this way, as opposed to that fight or flight response. And having some understanding of that trauma, plus what your Enneagram is, astrology, numerology, I draw upon all of those things to give me as much information as possible about the person, just to go, hey, not put you in a box, but like, hey, you are potentially living out of alignment. Like, look, these are your core values. The idea is to develop what your core values are, understand your core values. I'm like, are you living by them? If you're not, there's a good chance that's going to create a greater stress on your body, a body that is, if you're living a life out of alignment, guys, that's what's going to destroy your testosterone. We're beaten down in society right now when most guys don't know exactly how to be. I know I'm a family guy. I've raised my family a specific way. We've homeschooled from the beginning. We've decided to travel and show our kids the world. You don't have to do that, but to be an empowered individual is going to raise your testosterone. If you're feeling like you're just like, yes, you're nodding your head and just acquiescing in any way, shape, or form, that is going to destroy your testosterone. If you have any questions, please reach out, email me. There'll be links at the end of this webinar to set up a discovery call. I only take a certain amount of clients. I'm also in the process of developing a group where I meet in this fashion to create support for both men and women that are encountering issues of anxiety, depression, low T, that can all sort of be lumped into the same. Let's get to the root cause. And that'll also be linked. That's in bethehero.academy. I'll be starting a group where I'll be meeting and helping people along the way. But if you're ready for massive change, there's nothing better than one-on-one coaching to make that happen. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.